She thought the worst night of her life was losing her law license. Then a stranger with eyes that change colors caught a bottle midair without looking, confessed he murdered her mother 23 years ago, and offered her a deal she couldn't refuse. Protection from the supernatural killers hunting her, answers about the family secrets that destroyed her life, and a blood bond that would let her feel his guilt, his power, and his deadly obsession with keeping her alive. All she has to do is trust the man who took everything from her. But when she opens the lockbox her father died protecting, Isadora discovers something worse than her mother's murder. Centuries of documented crimes by angels and demons. Proof that could start a war between heaven and hell. And every supernatural faction in existence wants her dead, wants the evidence destroyed, or wants to use her as a weapon. Raziel swears he'll protect her. Swears his redemption depends on it. But protection from a Nephilim comes with a price. And she's starting to realize the most dangerous thing hunting her isn't the enforcers breaking through her door. It's the man standing between her and death who's willing to burn the world down to keep her safe. The glass shattered against the wall 6 inches from Isadora's head, and she didn't even flinch. Not anymore. 3 years bartending at Devil's Hour meant drunk assholes throwing things was just another Tuesday night. What made her freeze, though, was the man who caught the next bottle midair without looking. His hand moved so fast it blurred, fingers closing around the neck of the whiskey bottle like he'd known exactly where it would be before the drunk even threw it. Their eyes met across the smoky bar. His were silver. Not gray. Not light blue. Silver, like actual mercury, catching the neon lights in a way that made her stomach drop. Then they shifted, darkened to amber so deep it looked like melted gold bleeding into his irises. She blinked. Normal brown. Eyes stared back at her, and she wondered if she'd imagined the whole thing. "You okay?" His voice was rough, the kind of rough that came from screaming or not talking for days. He set the bottle down on the bar between them with careful precision, like he was afraid his own strength might shatter it. Isadora's throat felt tight. "I've had worse thrown at me." The lie came easy. She had her law degree on the wall of her shitty studio apartment to prove she'd survived worse than flying glassware. "Thanks for the reflexes." Old habit. He slid onto the bar stool, and she noticed his hands were shaking. Not the drunk kind of shaking. Something else. Something that made the muscles in his forearms twitch like they were fighting each other. Whiskey. Neat. The expensive kind. She poured Macallan 18 because something about him said he'd know the difference between that and the rot gut they served most customers. His fingers wrapped around the glass, and she saw it. A scar that started at his wrist and disappeared under his sleeve, silvery white and raised like a brand. It wasn't the scar that caught her attention. It was the way it seemed to pulse with its own light for half a second before going dull again. Long night. She was fishing. Stupid. None of her business. But law school had trained her to read people, and this man was a walking contradiction. Expensive watch, calloused knuckles, tailored jacket, haunted eyes, and those hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Long. Life. He downed the whiskey in one pull and pushed the glass toward her for another. "You always work the graveyard shift? You always dodge questions with questions?" The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. "Lawyer?" Her hand stilled on the bottle. "Ex-lawyer. How'd you know?" "You cross-examine like you're deposing a witness." This time he did smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Those eyes that she could have sworn changed color. "And you've got that look, like you've seen the worst humanity has to offer and documented it in triplicate." Isadora poured his second drink slower, studying him. "What look do you have?" "The kind that says I was the worst humanity had to offer." He said it like a fact, not a confession. Matter of fact. Clinical. The way you'd say the sky is blue or water is wet. Then he drank again, and she saw his hand steady around the glass, like the alcohol calmed whatever war was happening inside him. The door chimed. 2 men walked in, and the temperature in the bar dropped. Not metaphorically. Actual cold, the kind that made her breath fog. They wore black suits despite it being August in Miami, and they moved wrong. Too smooth. Too coordinated. Their eyes swept the room and landed on the man at her bar. His entire body went rigid. The glass cracked in his grip. Not shattered. Cracked, like his fingers had suddenly gained the strength to compress crystal. Fuck. Friends of yours? Isadora grabbed the Louisville Slugger she kept. Under the bar. She'd been jumped twice walking to her car after closing. Never again. Worse. Much worse. He stood, and she saw the tremor in his hands intensify. You need to get behind something solid. Now. This is my bar. Well, I work here. Same difference. And I've dealt with... They're not here for a drink, Isadora. She hadn't told him her name. The name tag on her shirt just said, Izzy. How do you... One of the men raised his hand. The lights exploded. Every single bulb in the bar burst simultaneously, raining glass like deadly snow. Emergency exit signs flickered and died. The only light came from the street outside and the dying embers of someone's cigarette in the corner booth. The man in front of her moved. 1 second he was at the bar, the next he was between her and the suits. She saw his back illuminated by something that shouldn't exist. Light. Actual light bleeding from under his skin, tracing patterns that looked like broken halos and shattered wings. And darkness. Shadows that moved independent of any light source, crawling up his arms like living things. She's under protection. His voice changed. Layered. Like two people speaking at once. One with the authority of something ancient and righteous. One with the seduction of something that whispered in dark places. Contract's been paid. You have no claim. There is no contract, the first suit said. His voice echoed wrong, like it was coming from somewhere else. The girl doesn't even know. What she is. Doesn't matter. Free will supersedes bloodline. Or did the covenant change while I was gone? The silver and amber was back in his eyes, fighting for dominance. Isadora could see it now, both colors swirling in his irises like oil and water refusing to mix. Tell Uriel I fulfilled my contract the day I let her live. That debt's paid. Let her live. The words hit her like a fist to the solar plexus. She gripped the bat tighter. What the hell is going on? No one answered. The second suit moved, and the man in front of her moved faster. His hand shot out, and the air between them rippled, distorted. The suit flew backward through the door he'd entered, taking the frame with him. Wood exploded, metal shrieked. The first suit smiled. Still using the old tricks, Raziel? How's the guilt treating you these days? Raziel. The name felt wrong in her ears. Too old. Too weighted with meaning she didn't understand. Better than damnation treated you, Mikhail. Raziel's hands had stopped shaking. They were perfectly still now, and somehow that was more terrifying. Leave, while I'm asking nicely. The Ferreiras always were stubborn. Mikhail looked directly at Isadora. Your father understood the cost of knowing too much. Pity his daughter won't learn the same lesson. Ice flooded her veins. You knew my father. We all knew your father. Before he took something that didn't belong to him and ran. Mikhail tilted his head. 20 years hiding that lockbox. 20. Years we've been looking. And here you are, finally old enough to open it. Convenient. The lockbox. The one in her apartment that she'd tried to pry open 1,000 times. The one with the keyhole that didn't match any key she'd ever found. The one her father disappeared looking for when she was 10 years old. She doesn't have it, Raziel said. But his voice hitched. A lie. He knew she had it. Isadora's mind raced. This stranger knew her name, knew about her father, knew about the lockbox, and these, whatever they were, wanted it badly enough to trash her bar. Everybody out! She screamed at the handful of customers cowering in booths. Fire! Out! Now! They ran. Smart. She turned to Raziel. You've got 30 seconds to tell me what the fuck is happening before I call the cops. Cops can't help you. His eyes met hers, and she saw something there that made her breath catch. Guilt, raw and bleeding and ancient. But I can. If you let me. Why would I trust you? You just said, you let me live, like that was a choice you made. Because 23 years ago, I killed your mother. He said it quietly, calmly, like he was confessing to forgetting to water a plant. And I've been trying to make up for it ever since. The world tilted. Her mother. The woman in the single photograph she had, holding baby Isadora with a smile that looked too sad to be real. The woman her father never talked about except to say she went away. You're insane. But her hands were numb on the bat. You're fucking insane. I wish I was. Raziel took a step toward her, and she saw the silver win the war in his eyes. Just for a moment. Your father hired me to find your mother. She'd been taken by people who wanted to use her bloodline. I found her, but I was too late. She made me promise to keep you safe. So I did. And I will. Mikhail laughed. He left out the best part. He was the one who took her in the first place. Raziel's jaw clenched so hard she heard his teeth grind. Get out. Last warning. We'll be back. For the girl. For the box. For everything your failure cost us. Mikhail walked toward the destroyed door, stepping over debris. And Raziel, the council knows you're breaking sanctuary. They're coming. Then they were gone. Just gone. No walking out. No door closing. Just absence where presence had been. Isadora's legs gave out. She hit the floor behind the bar, bat clattering beside her. Her mother, murdered. By the man standing in front of her who was now offering protection like he hadn't just confessed to destroying her entire life before it began. The lockbox, Raziel said softly. It has answers. Your father spent 2 decades hiding them. If you want to know why your mother died, why he disappeared, why they're hunting you now, you need to open it. And let me guess. Her voice was shaking. Everything was shaking. You're the only one who can help me do that. No. He crouched down, meeting her at eye level. But I'm the only one who will. Because I owe her. And I owe you. She should call the cops. Should run. Should do literally anything except listen to this man who admitted to murder like it was a resume bullet point. But her father's face flashed in her memory. The way he'd bolt upright at night, checking locks obsessively. The way he'd taught her to fight, to lie, to disappear. The way he'd looked at that lockbox like it held both salvation and damnation. If you're lying, then you'll kill me. I've seen you fight. You've got your mother's rage. His smile was sad. Broken. Deal? Isadora picked up the bat, gripped it with both hands. Deal. Raziel's apartment wasn't what Isadora expected. She'd imagined something cold, clinical, maybe weapons mounted on walls like trophies. Instead, she got floor-to-ceiling bookshelves crammed with everything from ancient texts to true crime paperbacks, a kitchen that looked actually used, and windows covered in symbols painted directly onto the glass. They glowed faint, blue in the darkness, pulsing like a heartbeat. Protection sigils, he said, following her gaze. Nothing gets through those without an invitation. We're safe here. Safe. The word felt foreign. She clutched the lockbox against her chest, the metal cold even through her jacket. It was small, maybe 8 inches by 6, made of something that looked like steel but felt heavier. Wrong. The keyhole was shaped like a 7-pointed star, and around it, engraved so faint she'd never noticed before, were words in a language she didn't recognize. Enochian, Raziel said. He'd moved to the kitchen, was pouring 2 glasses of something amber. Not whiskey this time. Something that smelled like honey and fire. The language of contracts. Your father was thorough. Stop talking about him like you knew him. Isadora set the box on his coffee table harder than necessary. You murdered my mother. You don't get to reminisce. Fair. He handed her a glass. Their fingers brushed, and heat shot up her arm. Not attraction. Something else. Something that made her skin prickle with awareness of exactly where he was in the room even when she looked away. But if we're doing this, you need to understand what you're dealing with. What I am. A killer. The word tasted bitter. A Nephilim. He sat across from her, and in the dim light from the sigils, she saw it clearly. The way his skin seemed to shimmer with two different textures. Smooth and perfect on the left side of his face, slightly rougher. On the right, like two different people had been stitched together. Half angel, half demon. My mother was human. My father was complicated. That's not possible. You watched me throw a man through a wall with my mind 2 hours ago. His eyebrows raised. Where's your line for impossible? Fair point. Isadora drank. The liquid burned going down, but settled warm in her stomach, chasing away some of the cold that had lived in her bones since Mikkel mentioned her mother. So what? You're some kind of supernatural hitman? Was. His hands started trembling again. He set his glass down, pressed his palms flat against his thighs. I was an executor. Celestial contracts. Someone breaks divine law. Someone pays me to clean it up. Your mother. He stopped, started again. She was Nephilim too. Didn't know it. Most don't. But her bloodline went back 7 generations to a union between a fallen angel and a fortune teller in Portugal. Made her visible to things that hunt people like us. People like us? Isadora's laugh came out sharp. I'm human. Completely boringly human. You're a Ferreira. That name means something in the world you don't know exists yet. Raziel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Your great-great-great-grandmother kept records. Every supernatural event in Lisbon for 50 years. Names, dates, crimes. She was going to expose everything. The angels couldn't allow it. So they killed her. They tried. She ran, got married, had kids, passed the records down through generations, each one adding more. Your mother had them. Was going to publish them under academic research. Mythology, she'd call it. Except it was all true. His jaw clenched. I was hired to retrieve the records. Standard contract. Bring them back. Make sure the witness forgot everything. But you didn't just make her forget. Isadora's voice was flat. Cold. You killed her. No. The word came out strangled. I took her. Brought her to the contractor. They were supposed to erase her memory, let her go. Instead, his eyes shifted. Silver bleeding into amber and back again, fighting each other. They executed her. Said she'd seen too much. Known too much. And I stood there and let it happen because I was following orders. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the sigils and Raziel's ragged breathing. Isadora wanted to throw her glass at him. Wanted to scream. Wanted to hurt him the way he'd hurt her family. But she needed answers more than revenge. For now, why save me? Because when your mother died, she looked at me. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Looked right at me with your eyes and she said, my daughter. That's it. Just my daughter. And I realized what I'd done, who I'd become. So I went back. Found your father packing to run. Told him what happened. Gave him the records instead of turning them in. You expect me to believe you suddenly grew a conscience? I expect you to believe I'm trying. The tremor in his hands spread to his arms. He stood abruptly, moved to the window, pressed his forehead against the glass. The sigils flared brighter at his touch. Every person I killed before your mother, I could justify. They broke laws, endangered the balance, deserved punishment. But her? She was innocent. And I helped murder her anyway. Isadora stood too, unable to sit still with rage and grief and something else clawing at her insides. My father never told me. About her. About what happened. Just said she was gone. He was protecting you. If you'd known the truth, started looking for answers. Raziel turned from the window. They would have found you, like they found you tonight. The lockbox, that's what they want. It's what everyone wants. Your family's been documenting supernatural crimes for nearly 200 years. Murders, contracts, corruption in both celestial and infernal hierarchies. That box contains evidence that could destroy the entire system. He crossed to the coffee table, knelt beside it, and it's locked with your bloodline. Only a Ferreira can open it. How? Blood. He pointed to the star-shaped keyhole. 7 drops, 1 for each point. But there's a catch. Of course there is. Once you open it, you can't unknow what's inside. And every supernatural faction will sense it. You'll have maybe 48 hours before they descend. All of them. Wanting to destroy the evidence or use it or kill you for having it. His eyes met hers, both colors swirling now. No. Longer fighting, but blending into something new. Something that made her heart hammer. So you need to decide. Now. If knowing the truth is worth your life. Isadora looked at the box. At this man who'd confessed to the worst crime she could imagine but was offering her the one thing she'd wanted since she was 10 years old. Truth. About her mother, her father. Why her entire life had been running and hiding and never feeling safe. If I open it, she said slowly. You help me. All the way. No. Matter what's inside. I'll help you regardless. Raziel's voice was steady now. I owe your mother that much. And more. No. Isadora picked up the box, held it between them. I don't want your guilt. I want a deal. A real one. You protect me from whatever comes. I'll let you try to earn redemption. But if you betray me, if you lie, if you're using me, she let the threat hang unfinished. I'm already damned. Have been since the day I took your mother. He held out his hand. But yes. Deal. She should walk away. Should smash the box and never look back. Should do anything except shake hands with her mother's killer. But her father's face haunted her. The way he'd touched this box like it held salvation. The way he'd disappeared looking for something. Probably a way to expose the truth without getting Isadora killed in the process. She took Raziel's hand. Heat exploded where their skin touched, racing up her arm and into her chest. For a second, just a second, she felt it. His guilt, sharp and bleeding and endless. His rage at himself. His desperate need to fix something that could never be fixed. And underneath it all, loneliness so profound it made her gasp. He pulled back fast. Sorry, the bond, it's... Bond? Nephilim thing. We're sensitive to humans with our bloodline. You felt it because you're 8th generation. He rubbed his hand like it burned. It'll fade. But it didn't feel like it would fade. It felt like something had woken up inside her. Something that recognized him on a level that had nothing to do with logic or reason, or the fact that he'd destroyed her family. Isadora set the box back on the table, pulled out her pocket knife. The blade caught the blue light from the sigils, and for a moment, she hesitated. Once she did this, there was no going back. No more pretending her life was normal. No more bartending and law school debt and quiet desperation. Do it, Raziel said softly. Your mother would want you to know. That decided it. She pressed the blade to her thumb, squeezed until blood welled dark and red. 7 drops. 1 for each point of the star. The blood hit the metal and sank in like the box was drinking it. The Enochian script flared white-hot, then gold, then a red so deep it looked black. The lock clicked. The lid opened, and Isadora saw the first page of her father's handwriting. Just 4 words, but they made the floor drop out from under her. They're coming for you. The windows exploded. Glass rained down like deadly snow, and Raziel was already moving. His body slammed into Isadora's, taking them both to the floor behind the couch as something massive crashed through where the window had been. Not something. Someone. 3 of them, dressed in white that hurt to look at directly. Faces smooth and expressionless as mannequins. Celestial enforcers, Raziel hissed against her ear. His weight pressed her into the carpet, protective and suffocating. Don't look at them directly. Don't. Listen if they speak your name. Little late for that. One of them landed with impossible grace, feet not quite touching the ground. His voice echoed wrong, like it was coming from inside Isadora's skull. The Ferreira girl has opened the archive. Covenant law demands immediate seizure and memory cleansing. She's under my protection. Raziel rolled off her, putting himself between Isadora and the enforcers. The tremor in his hands was gone completely now. They were steady as stone as silver. Light began bleeding from his palms. Sanctuary clause. I claimed her before the seal broke. You have no authority to claim anyone, deserter. A second enforcer moved left, circling. They were surrounding them. You abandoned your contract 23 years ago, helped a witness escape, stole celestial property. His empty eyes fixed on Isadora. And now you compound your crimes by protecting the daughter. The daughter, like she wasn't human, wasn't a person, just an extension of records that threatened them. The records are testimony. Isadora's voice shook but held. She grabbed the lockbox, papers spilling out. Her father's handwriting covered every page, meticulous dates and names and crimes. You can't cleanse the truth just because it's inconvenient. We don't cleanse truth. We maintain order. The third enforcer spoke for the first time, and his voice was gentle, reasonable, the kind of voice that made you want to trust him. The balance between celestial and infernal cannot be disrupted. These records document necessary actions taken to preserve humanity. You cannot understand the complexity of divine justice. I understand murder. Isadora stood, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. Law school had taught her one thing: never show weakness to people who want to silence you. My mother. The Lisboa massacre of 1873. The Chicago fires. Enough. The gentle enforcer's voice turned to ice. You speak of things beyond your comprehension. Your mother knew the consequences of exposure. She chose death over silence. She didn't choose shit. Raziel's voice was barely controlled rage. You executed her because she was going to publish academic research, because humans learning the truth threatens your control. It threatens their survival. The first enforcer moved closer, and the air grew cold. Humanity cannot coexist with knowledge of the divine. It destroys them. We have watched it happen across millennia. Records must be destroyed. The girl must forget. This is mercy. This is tyranny. Isadora clutched papers against her chest, names blurred across pages. Her mother's name, her grandmother's. Women in her bloodline going back generations, all marked as cleansed, or neutralized, or simply removed. A family tree pruned by murder disguised as divine will. The second enforcer raised his hand. Light gathered in his palm, white and searing. Last chance. Surrender the archive. Submit to cleansing. Live in ignorance, but live nonetheless. Or what? Isadora's hands were shaking now, but not with fear. With fury so pure it felt like power. You'll kill me like you killed them? Add my name to the list? If necessary. No hesitation. No remorse. The covenant supersedes individual life. Raziel moved faster than anything should move. His hand shot forward, and darkness exploded from his palm to meet the enforcer's light. Where they collided, reality screamed. The air tore, and Isadora saw through the rip to somewhere else. Somewhere that looked like the apartment but wasn't, where shadows moved with intention and whispers in dead languages filled the spaces between sounds. Get the box. Get to the bathroom. Lock the door. Raziel didn't look at her. His eyes were pure amber now, the silver completely drowned. There's a sigil on the mirror. Press your bloody thumb to it. It'll take you somewhere safe. I'm not leaving you. They'll kill you to get to those records. I'm already dead." His other hand came up, silver light blazing now from his left, while darkness poured from his right, the duality made visible, tearing him apart from the inside. "Please, let me do one thing right." The third enforcer moved, impossibly fast, and Raziel met him halfway. They collided in an explosion of light and shadow that sent furniture flying. The couch flipped, the coffee table shattered. Books rained from shelves as the walls shook. Isadora ran, grabbed the lockbox, papers, spilling everywhere, but she couldn't stop to gather them. The bathroom was 10 feet away, felt like miles. Behind her, Raziel was fighting 3 beings that shouldn't exist, his body moving like a weapon forged from contradictions. Beautiful and terrible, graceful and violent. She slammed the bathroom door, locked it. The mirror was covered in the same symbols as the windows, but one in the center was different. A handprint, small, probably Raziel's from when he'd marked his sanctuary. She pressed her bleeding thumb to it. The mirror rippled, showed not her reflection but a room. Small, concrete, filled with more symbols and what looked like weapons. A safe house. "You cannot run, child." The gentle enforcer's voice came through the door, through the walls, inside her head. "We have eternity. You have hours at best. The infernal factions know the seal is broken. They're coming too. And they won't offer mercy." The door buckled. Wood splintered. Raziel shouted something in that ancient language, and the apartment filled with pressure so intense Isadora's ears popped. She put her hand through the mirror. It was cold, like water but thicker, and her fingers disappeared into the rippling surface. The lockbox went first, tumbling through into the safe house. Then her arm, her shoulder. The door exploded inward. The gentle enforcer stood in the frame, and he wasn't gentle anymore. His face had cracked, revealing light so bright it burned to look at. "The records die with you." Isadora threw herself through the mirror as his hand reached for her. For a second, suspended between spaces, she felt it, the full weight of his power, enough to unmake her, to erase her from existence like she'd never been born. Then Raziel was there, grabbing the enforcer's wrist, and she heard bone crack. "She's under my protection. That's celestial law. You want her. You go through me." "So be it." The enforcer's other hand came up, and light engulfed them both. Isadora landed hard on concrete floor, the mirror solidifying behind her. She scrambled up, pressed her hands to the glass. On the other side, Raziel's apartment was burning, not with fire, with light so pure it consumed everything it touched. She could see him in the center, surrounded by all 3 enforcers, his body glowing with that impossible duality. Silver on one side, darkness on the other, tearing him apart. He looked at her through the mirror, just for a second, and she felt it again. That connection. His absolute certainty that this was how it should be. Him paying the price. Her surviving. Redemption through sacrifice. No. She slammed her fist against the mirror. It didn't ripple, didn't break, just reflected her face back at her, pale and terrified and furious. "No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to die for me. That's not redemption. That's running away." But he couldn't hear her, or chose not to. The light intensified until she had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, the apartment was gone. Just white. Empty white like the space between thoughts. The mirror showed her reflection now. Just her. Alone in a concrete room with a lockbox full of truths that people were willing to kill for. That Raziel might be dying for right now. She looked down at the papers scattered around her feet. Names and dates and crimes spanning nearly 2 centuries. Her family's legacy written in blood and testimony. And on the top page, in her father's handwriting, a note she'd missed. Before. "Isadora, If you're reading this, I'm gone. But the truth isn't. Guard it. Use it. The Nephilim named Raziel can be trusted. He saved you once. He'll save you again. But the cost will be high. For both of you. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help you pay it. Love. Dad. Trusted. Her father had trusted the man who'd taken her mother, had worked with him, had apparently known this moment would come and prepared for it. Isadora's legs gave out. She sat hard on the concrete, surrounded by papers that proved heaven was corrupt and angels were murderers, and the man currently fighting for her life was damned either way. And somehow, impossibly, she felt the bond Raziel had mentioned. Faint, but there. A thread connecting her to him across whatever distance the mirror had put between them. It was pulling tight, fraying, like something was cutting it strand by strand. Don't you dare die on me. She pressed her hand to the mirror again, willing the connection to hold. You don't get off that easy. You promised to help. You made a deal. The thread held. Barely. But it held. And on the other side, in that white emptiness, something screamed. 3 hours. That's how long Isadora sat on that concrete floor, hand pressed to the mirror, feeling the thread connecting her to Raziel fray and hold, fray and hold. 3 hours of silence, except for her own breathing, and the occasional whisper of papers shifting in the air currents from vents she couldn't see. 3 hours to read every page her father had documented. The Chicago fires weren't accidents. Celestial enforcers had burned an entire neighborhood because one family had witnessed an execution and refused cleansing. 47 people dead to protect the secret. The Lisboa massacre her mother had tried to publish about. 218 souls erased because a Nephilim had tried to broker peace between factions. Her grandmother's entry was shorter. Cleansed. Forgot her own children. Found dead in the river. 3 days later. Clinical. Brutal. True. Isadora's hands trembled as she read her mother's final entry. Her father's handwriting was shakier here, like he'd been crying while he wrote. Ana Maria Ferreira, executed for possession of archive. Last words, my daughter. Raziel present. Did not intervene. Then, in different ink, added later. Raziel returned. Gave warning. Helped us disappear. Said he would protect Isadora. I don't trust him, but I believe him. The mirror rippled. Isadora's head snapped up so fast her neck cracked. The surface wasn't solid anymore. It was moving, like oil on water, and then Raziel fell through it. He hit the concrete hard, rolled, came up on his knees coughing. Blood splattered the floor. Actual blood, dark red and too much of it. His jacket was shredded, revealing skin that was burned on the left side, covered in shadow-dark bruises on the right. The duality of his injuries made her stomach turn. You're alive. She was moving before conscious thought, dropping beside him. Her hands hovered over his shoulders, afraid to touch, afraid not to. I thought, takes more than 3 enforcers to kill me. His voice was raw, like he'd been screaming. But it was close. Too close. He looked up at her, and his eyes were wrong. The silver and amber weren't swirling anymore. They were separated, each eye a different color, like his 2 halves had stopped communicating. How long? 3 hours, maybe more. I don't have my phone. She grabbed his arm, helped him stand. He swayed, caught himself against the wall. What happened? I saw the light and then they tried to cleanse me, force me back into angelic compliance. He touched his face, winced. Didn't take. Never does. Demon half fights back and it just... He gestured vaguely at himself. This. You need a hospital. I need time. And blood. Not yours, he added quickly, seeing her reach for her knife. Any blood. Animal works. There's a fridge in the corner. There was, hidden behind. Symbols that glowed when she got close, like they were scanning her. Inside were bags of blood, the kind you'd see in hospitals, labeled with dates and types. She grabbed 2, brought them back. Raziel took one, bit directly into the plastic, and drank. It should have been horrifying. Somehow, it just seemed sad. "The enforcers?" she asked as he finished the first bag. "Retreated. I invoked old law, trial by combat. I won." He started on the second bag, and she could see the burns on his left side, beginning to heal. Slow, but visible. But winning means they'll send more, higher ranked, and next time they won't offer cleansing, just execution. Because of me. Because I opened the box. Because the system is broken and you have proof. Raziel set the empty bag down, leaned back against the wall. Color was returning to his face. "Your father spent 20 years documenting every crime he could verify. Names, dates, witnesses who were silenced. This isn't just testimony, Isadora. It's evidence that would hold up in any court, celestial or human. There are celestial courts. Used to be. Before the Covenant restructured everything 300 years ago. Now it's just hierarchy and enforcement. No trials, no appeals. Just orders and executions." He slid down the wall to sit, exhausted. "Your family's archive proves it wasn't always like this. That there were laws. Due process. Justice instead of control." Isadora sat across from him, papers spread between them like a barrier. "My father's note said you could be trusted. Why would he say that if you killed my mother? Because I told him the truth, showed him my orders, showed him that I'd been lied to, that the contract said retrieval and cleansing, not execution." Raziel's mismatched eyes met hers. "And because I gave him something more valuable than my word. I gave him my name. I don't understand. Names have power in our world. Real names. The ones we're born with, not the ones we use." He rubbed his face, and she noticed his hands were steady again. "If you know a Nephilim's true name, you can bind them, force them to keep promises. Your father knew if I broke my word to protect you, he could destroy me." The weight of that settled over her. "So all this time, you've been bound by a promise to a dead man?" "No." His voice was soft. "The binding broke when your father died. I felt it, the release. I could have walked away. Should have walked away. But I didn't because..." He stopped. Started. Again. "Because your mother looked at me with your eyes and said, 'My daughter.' And I understood I'd spent centuries following orders without questioning what they cost. She made me see what I'd become. So I stay, because I choose to. Because maybe if I can save you, it means I wasn't completely irredeemable when I let her die." Isadora wanted to hate him, wanted the clarity of simple rage. But nothing about this was simple. He was her mother's killer and her protector, her enemy and the only person standing between her and execution. And that thread connecting them pulled tighter every second, making her aware of his exhaustion, his pain, his crushing guilt that felt like drowning. The bond. She said it as statement, not question. "I can feel you. Not thoughts, but emotions. Your guilt. It's suffocating. It should be. I've earned it." Raziel closed his eyes. The bond forms between Nephilim and humans who carry fallen bloodlines. Recognition, like calling to like. Usually, takes weeks of proximity to manifest. But you open the archive with your blood, and I was touching you when the seal broke. It accelerated the process. Can it be broken? Yes. If one of us dies, or if we complete a blood-binding ritual that severs it permanently. He opened his eyes, studied her. "Do you want it broken?" Did she? The bond was invasive, uncomfortable, made her feel things that weren't hers. But it also meant she'd know if he was lying. Would feel betrayal before it happened. Would sense danger through him. Not yet. Not until I understand what we're dealing with. Smart. He managed a small smile. You have your mother's instincts. She knew I was lying about the cleansing before I even finished the sentence. Felt the truth under my words. She was sensitive, like me. More than that, she was awakening. Another few years and she would have been able to see through celestial disguises, sense infernal contracts. Your bloodline isn't just record keepers, Isadora. You're truth seers. That's why you're so dangerous to them. Truth seers. Isadora looked at the papers, at centuries of testimony written by women who could sense lies and document reality that others wanted hidden. Her legacy wasn't just words. It was sight, clarity, the one thing corrupt systems feared most. The enforcers said infernal factions were coming too. What do they want? Same thing, the archive. But where celestials want to destroy it, infernals want to use it. Proof of angelics. Corruption is leverage. They'd use your testimony to wage war. Raziel stood, offered her his hand. We have maybe 12 hours before they track the mirror portal. Maybe less. We need to move. She took his hand, let him pull her up. The contact sent warmth racing up her arm again, and through the bond she felt it. His determination. His fear not for himself, but for her. His absolute certainty that he would die before letting anyone hurt her. Where do we go? Somewhere they can't follow. Somewhere outside celestial and infernal jurisdiction. He started gathering papers, shoving them back in the lockbox with careful hands. There's a place. Neutral ground. Run by someone who owes me a favor. But getting there means crossing through the veil, and that's going to hurt. The veil? The space between mortal world and the realms beyond. It's not meant for humans. Your body will feel like it's being torn apart. You'll see things, hear things. Some of it will be real. Most of it will. Be the veil showing you your fears. He closed the lockbox, locked it with a symbol pressed from his palm. But I'll be with you. The bond will help. You can anchor to me. Isadora thought about her apartment, her job, her normal life that was already ashes. Thought about 3 hours sitting on concrete, waiting to feel Raziel die through a thread she didn't ask for. Thought about her mother saying, "my daughter," with her last breath, and her father spending 20 years preparing her for a fight. He knew was coming. Okay, let's cross the veil. Raziel pulled something from his pocket. A blade, small, wickedly sharp, covered in engravings. This is going to sound insane, but you need to trust me. More insane than everything else? Yes. He held the blade between them. To cross the veil together, we need to be bound. Not permanently. Just enough that I can pull you through. It requires blood. Yours and mine. Mixed. A blood bond. Temporary one. It'll fade after we cross. But for those minutes, you'll feel everything I feel. All of it. The duality. The war inside me. The memories. His hand tightened on the blade. I'm warning you because some of those memories are of your mother. Of what I did. What I failed to stop. Isadora's throat was tight. Every instinct said run. But the thread between them hummed with his sincerity, his dread of causing her more pain, his willingness to let her refuse even though it meant they'd be trapped here when the factions arrived. She held out her hand. Do it. The blade cut her palm first, quick and clean. Blood welled dark against her skin, and Raziel caught it in his other hand before it could drip. Then he cut himself. Same hand, same placement, and when he pressed their wounds together, the world fractured. Isadora gasped. It wasn't pain. It was everything. His exhaustion slammed into her like a physical blow, centuries of it, bone-deep weariness that made her knees buckle. He caught her with his free arm, held her up as the blood bond took hold and his life poured into hers. She saw through his eyes, felt through his skin, 1,000 years of existing as two things that hated each other, trapped in the same body. The angel half screamed for order, for righteousness, for obedience to laws written before humanity learned to speak. The demon half laughed at rules, craved chaos, wanted to burn everything beautiful just to watch it fall. And between them, the human soul he'd inherited from his mother, crushed and twisted and somehow still fighting. Breathe. His voice anchored her. Focus on my voice. Don't let the memories take you. Too late. They were already flooding in, unstoppable as a riptide. She saw him centuries ago, barely more than a child himself, learning to kill because that's what weapons did. Saw him standing over bodies, dozens of them, hundreds, collecting payment in celestial favor and infernal coin. Saw him stop questioning, stop feeling, become the blade instead of the hand that held it. Then she saw her mother, young, so young, maybe 25, sitting in a library surrounded by books, beautiful in a way that made Isadora's chest ache. She was writing, completely absorbed, and didn't notice when Raziel materialized behind her. Didn't see him reach for her until his hand touched her shoulder and she turned, startled, and looked right at him with Isadora's eyes. "You're the one they sent." Her mother's voice was steady despite the fear. "The executor. Come quietly, and you won't be harmed." Raziel's voice was cold then. Empty. "Resist, and I'm authorized to use force. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm writing about mythology, folk tales. It's research. It's exposure. The names you've written are real. The events documented. You know too much." Her mother stood slowly, hands visible. "Then let me forget. You have that power, don't you? Memory cleansing. I'll forget everything. You can even destroy my research. Just let me live." Isadora felt Raziel's certainty through the memory, felt him believe the contract terms. Retrieval and cleansing, standard procedure. He'd done it 100 times. "You'll forget, I promise." Liar. The word echoed through the bond. Raziel's own voice from the present, anguished. "I promised, and I didn't know I was lying." The memory jumped. Her mother in a white room, strapped to a chair, and Raziel standing outside looking through glass. Another angel was inside with her, hands glowing. Not cleansing. Something else. Her mother screamed, thrashed. Blood ran from her nose, her ears, as the angel tore through her mind not to erase but to extract. "You said cleansing." Raziel's younger self pressed against the glass. The contract specified neutralization. The supervising angel didn't even look at him. Cleansing leaves them alive. She knows too much for that mercy. Extract everything, then execute. That's not the deal. I gave my word. You gave the Covenant's word. We determine what that means. The angel inside the room placed his hand on her mother's head, and light blazed. When it faded, her mother slumped forward, eyes open but empty. Gone. Extraction complete. Proceed with termination. Raziel's horror flooded through the bond, and Isadora felt it viscerally. Felt his demon half surge forward, demanding he slaughter everyone in the building. Felt his angel half lock him in place with chains of obedience and duty. Felt him stand there, paralyzed by his own nature, as another angel walked in and pressed a blade to her mother's throat. "Wait." Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. "My daughter." Everyone froze. The angel with the blade looked at his superior. She shouldn't be conscious. The extraction should have... "My daughter." Louder now. Her mother's eyes, empty seconds ago, focused on Raziel through the glass. "Please, my daughter." The blade moved. Her mother's blood ran, and Raziel felt something break inside him that had never healed. Isadora jerked back to the present, gasping. Tears streamed down her face, and she didn't know if they were hers or his or both. She was already gone. You couldn't have saved her. I could have tried. His voice was wrecked. I could have fought. Died trying. Instead, I stood there because my angel half wouldn't let me disobey. And by the time I broke through the paralysis, she was already bleeding out. His hand tightened on hers, blood bond flaring hot. The last thing she saw was me doing nothing. No. Isadora gripped back harder. The last thing she said was my daughter. She was thinking about me, protecting me even then. If you'd fought, they would have known about me immediately, hunted me down. She saved me by making you promise. I didn't promise. She died before I could. You promised by surviving, by going to my father, by spending 23 years keeping me hidden. She could feel his guilt trying to drown them both, and she pushed back with every ounce of stubborn rage her father had taught her. You don't get to rewrite history because you feel bad. She died. You didn't save her, but you saved me. Multiple times. That has to count for something. Through the bond, she felt his shock, his desperate need to believe her, his certainty that he didn't deserve forgiveness, and underneath it all, something else. Something that made her breath catch. Gratitude. Not that she forgave him, but that she was strong enough to survive knowing the truth. The veil is opening. Raziel pulled her closer, and she felt the temperature drop. This is going to hurt. Stay connected to me. Don't let go no matter what you see. The air in front of them tore. Not metaphorically. Actually tore, like fabric ripping, revealing something behind reality that writhed and shifted. Colors that didn't have names. Sounds that predated language. The space between spaces where physics was a suggestion and sanity was optional. Together, Raziel's arm wrapped around her waist, and they stepped through. Pain exploded. Isadora screamed, or tried to, but the veil swallowed sound. Her body felt like it was being unmade, every cell pulled apart and examined and judged. The bond with Raziel blazed so bright it burned, and she clung to it like a lifeline as the veil showed her things. Her mother, throat cut, eyes accusing. You let him live. You forgave your family's murderer. Her father, standing in their old apartment, looking at her with disappointment. You opened the box. You doomed. Everyone. Herself, older, covered in symbols like Raziel's apartment, alone and insane from truths no one else could see. This is your future. Isolation and madness. Not real. Raziel's voice cut through the visions. The veil feeds on fear, shows you what you dread most. Fight it. But she couldn't fight, because the next vision was Raziel himself, standing over her body, hands glowing with that terrible duality. And she was dead like her mother had been dead. Like all the other witnesses had been dead. Another name in the archive. This is what he is. A voice from everywhere and nowhere. Killer. Weapon. He will betray you when the Covenant demands it. He always does. No. She said it out loud this time, and her voice had weight in this place. He chose me over the Covenant. Multiple times. He's choosing me now. For how long? Until you become inconvenient? Until orders change? He is bound by nature to serve. Through the bond, she felt Raziel's anguish at the accusation. Felt his terror that it was true. That one day his angel half would override his choice, and he'd kill her like he'd failed to save her mother. Then I'll bind him differently. Isadora tightened her grip on his hand, used the blood bond to flood him with her certainty. He's not just a weapon. He's a person. And people can choose. The veil screamed. Or maybe that was Raziel. Or her. Or both of them as reality reasserted itself, and they stumbled out onto solid ground that felt real and permanent and blessedly normal. They collapsed together on grass. Actual grass. Isadora's hand was still locked with Raziel's, blood bond pulsing between them, and she could feel his shock through it. Shock and something else. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. You defended me. To the veil. He was staring at her like she'd done something impossible. Why? Because watching your memories doesn't mean I understand you perfectly. But it means I understand enough. She sat up slowly. Everything. Aching. You're not just what you've done. You're what you choose now. And right now, you're choosing to help me. That's what matters. Above them, stars wheeled in patterns that were wrong. Not Earth's sky. Somewhere else. Somewhere between. Welcome to Liminal. A voice called from nearby, amused and slightly mocking. Raziel, you absolute disaster. You brought a human here and blood bonded her? The Covenant's going to lose their minds. Isadora looked up. A woman stood there, tall and sharp-featured, with eyes that glowed faint purple. She was smiling, but there was nothing friendly about it. Hello, sister. Raziel's voice was carefully neutral. We need sanctuary. Sister. The word hit Isadora like a punch. Raziel had a sister, and from the way he was unconsciously putting himself between them, that wasn't necessarily a good thing. Raziel's sister wasn't what Isadora expected. She'd imagined something cold, distant, otherworldly. Instead, Sariel looked almost human except for those violet eyes and the way shadows bent toward her like they were drawn by gravity. She wore jeans and a leather jacket, leaned against a twisted tree that definitely didn't belong to any species Isadora recognized, and radiated the kind of dangerous amusement that made smart people nervous. Sanctuary. Sariel's laugh was sharp. That's rich. You disappear for 2 decades, ignore every message I send, and now you show up asking for favors? Her eyes slid to Isadora, assessing. With a human-carrying Ferreira blood, no less. You always did have a talent for catastrophic decisions. The Covenant sent enforcers. 3 of them. Raziel helped Isadora stand, and she noticed he kept himself positioned between her and his sister. They'll send more. We need time. Time for what? She's already opened the archive. Every faction from here to the abyss knows it. Sariel pushed off the tree, circled them slowly. That blood bond is fresh. Sloppy work, brother. You can feel each other's fear right now, can't you? That's going to get exhausting. Through the bond, Isadora felt Raziel's tension spike. Felt his deep discomfort with his sister seeing them like this, vulnerable and connected. Sariel, please. Oh, he says please now. How touching. But Sariel's expression softened slightly. Fine. Come on. But the human stays in the guest quarters. You stay in the East Wing, and that bond gets severed before you leave. I'm not having Covenant assassins tracking you here through your little emotional tether. The bond fades naturally after 72 hours, yes. I know how temporary bindings work. Do I look like I want to host you for 3 days? Sariel turned, started walking through grass that shifted colors as she passed. Blue to silver to something that hurt to look at directly. Move, before something notices you standing there bleeding celestial and infernal signatures like a beacon. Raziel pulled Isadora forward, their hands still linked. Through the bond. She felt his relief mixed with dread. Relief they had shelter. Dread about whatever history existed between him and his sister. You didn't mention you had a sister. Isadora kept her voice low. Half-sister, same father, different mothers. His jaw was tight. We don't talk. I can hear you, you know. Sariel called back without turning. Nephilim senses. Try whispering quieter next time. The landscape was wrong in ways Isadora's brain struggled to process. Trees grew sideways. The sky was purple in some places, green in others, and occasionally just absent, revealing something that looked like static. Buildings appeared in the distance that seemed to shift positions when she wasn't looking directly at them. What is this place? Liminal. The space that isn't space. Sariel led them toward a structure that looked like a house had been crossed with a cathedral and given up halfway through. Nephilim who don't want to choose between celestial and infernal jurisdictions come here. It's neutral ground. Sort of. As neutral as anything gets when you're made of contradictions. They entered through doors that opened before Sariel touched them. Inside was stranger than outside. The foyer had 3 staircases going in different directions, including one that went down from the ceiling. Furniture floated at random heights, paintings on the walls showed scenes that moved, and not in a magical way. They moved like recorded footage, playing moments on loop. One painting caught Isadora's attention. 2 children, maybe 10 years old, one with silver eyes and one with violet. They were laughing, playing with light and shadow that responded to their hands. Happy. Before whatever happened to make Raziel avoid his sister for 20 years. Guest quarters. Sariel pointed to a hallway that definitely hadn't been there a second ago. Bathroom, bed, food in the fridge. Don't leave the room after dark. Things wander here at night, and I can't guarantee they won't eat. Humans. Sariel, Raziel started. She'll be fine. You, come with me. We need to talk. Alone. Sariel's tone left no room for argument. Through the bond, Isadora felt Raziel's reluctance to leave her, felt his trust in his sister warring with his protective instinct. She squeezed his hand once, let go. I'll be okay. Go. His fingers lingered on hers for a moment longer than necessary. Then he followed Sariel down a different hallway, and Isadora was alone. The guest room was surprisingly normal. Bed, dresser, window that showed the purple-green sky. She set the lockbox on the nightstand, checked that it was still sealed with Raziel's symbol. Her hand throbbed where he'd cut her. The blood bond pulsed in time with her heartbeat, and she could feel him somewhere in the house. Tense, defensive. She should rest, should process everything. Instead, she found herself drawn to the window. Outside, the landscape shifted constantly, but in the distance she saw others. Nephilim, she assumed. Some looked almost human. Others had wings, not feathered but made of light or shadow or both. They moved through liminal like it was home, comfortable in the wrongness. You can feel him, can't you? Sariel's voice came from behind her, and Isadora spun. The door was still closed. Sariel was just there, sitting on the bed like she'd always been there. The bond. It's not just blood. It's recognition. Your bloodline and his nature resonating. You said it would fade. It will. The temporary binding will fade. But the recognition. Sariel's violet eyes gleamed. That's permanent. You'll always know when he's near. Always sense his emotional state. It's what happened to your mother, too. Isadora's breath caught. My mother had a bond with him. Not blood bond, but recognition, yes. That's why she could see through his lies. Why she looked at him and said, my daughter, instead of begging for her own life. Sariel stood, moved to the window beside Isadora. She knew he'd broken inside. Knew that if she made it about you instead of her, he'd spend the rest of his existence trying to compensate for his failure. How do you know what my mother said? Because I was there. Sariel's reflection in the glass showed no remorse. Not in the room, but I was supervising the extraction team. It was my operation. The world tilted. Isadora's hand shot out, grabbed the window frame for support. You. Me? I gave the orders. Raziel just followed them. Though to be fair, he didn't know what my orders actually entailed. I told him cleansing, standard procedure. Sariel's voice was clinical. Your mother's research was too detailed, too accurate. She had to be neutralized completely. And you're telling me this why? To hurt me more? Isadora's other hand moved to her knife, the one she still carried. The one that wouldn't do anything against a Nephilim but made her feel less helpless. I'm telling you because you need to understand what you're dealing with. My brother thinks he's protecting you out of guilt, out of some misguided redemption arc. Sariel turned to face her directly. But the truth is simpler and more dangerous. He's bonded to you, not just blood, soul recognition. And when a Nephilim bonds like that, they become irrational, protective to the point of destruction. He will burn down the celestial hierarchy for you, start wars, break every law, and it won't be noble. It'll be obsession. Through the bond, Isadora felt a spike of pain. Raziel had heard, or felt her distress. She didn't know which. He's not obsessed, he's trying to help. For now. But what happens when the Covenant gives him an ultimatum? You or redemption? You or his chance at peace? Sariel leaned closer. What happens when he has to choose between saving you and saving thousands of others? Because that choice is coming, Isadora. The archive you carry will start a war. Celestials and Infernals will tear each other apart over it. Millions will die. And he'll choose you anyway. Because that's what bonded Nephilim do. They choose the one over the many. And then they hate themselves for it. You're lying. Am I? Feel the bond. Feel what he's feeling right now. Sariel's smile was cruel. He's terrified I'm right. Isadora did feel it. Through the blood bond, she felt Raziel's fear. Not of the Covenant. Not of death. Fear that Sariel was telling the truth. That he was already too attached. That he'd sacrifice anything and anyone to keep Isadora safe. And the guilt of future atrocities was already eating at him. I didn't ask for this. Isadora's voice shook. Any of this. I just wanted answers about my mother. No one asks for their destiny. They just get crushed by it. Sariel moved toward the door that she hadn't used to enter. Sleep. Eat. Read your father's archive. And think very carefully about whether keeping those records is worth the war they'll cause. Because my brother will let the world burn before he lets you get hurt. And eventually, you'll have to decide if you can live with that. She left. Actually used the door this time. And Isadora stood alone in a room in a place that shouldn't exist. Feeling through a bond she didn't want the man who'd failed to save her mother, slowly breaking under the weight of protecting her daughter. The lockbox sat on the nightstand. Innocent. Small. Containing proof of centuries of corruption. Proof that could free people or doom them. Proof that Raziel would die protecting. That wars would be fought over. That her mother and grandmother and all the women before them had died compiling. Isadora sat on the bed, opened the box, and started reading. If this was going to cost everything, she needed to know exactly what she was paying for. 3 hours later, she understood. The archive wasn't just testimony. It was a blueprint. Her ancestors hadn't just documented crimes. They documented the system's structure. Names of angels who'd ordered executions. Demons who'd been allowed to operate in exchange for maintaining celestial power. Humans who'd been sacrificed to keep the balance. And at the very back, in her father's handwriting, a final entry dated the day he disappeared. If you're reading this, the war has started. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it. But maybe you can. The archive is a weapon, Isadora. Use it wisely. And trust Raziel. He's more human than he believes. Love, Dad. Through the bond, she felt Raziel's anguish. He'd felt her reading. Felt her. Understanding the weight of what she carried. And his determination solidified into something unbreakable. He would protect her. Whatever it cost. Sariel was right. This was going to end in fire. Isadora didn't sleep. How could she? Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's face from Raziel's memory, saw Sariel's cold assessment, saw the future her father had predicted. War. Fire. Millions dead because she'd opened a box. Dawn came wrong and liminal. The purple sky shifted to orange, then yellow, then colors that didn't exist in nature. She'd been sitting at the small desk, reorganizing the archive papers into categories: executions, cover-ups, contracts. The evidence was damning, but it was also incomplete. Her father had documented the what, but not always the why. A knock startled her. Raziel's voice came through the door, hesitant. "Can I come in?" The blood bond told her he'd been standing outside for 20 minutes, building courage. She felt his dread of facing her, after what Sariel had revealed. His certainty that Isadora would see him differently now. See the obsession his sister had named. "It's not locked," Her voice was rough from not speaking. He entered slowly, and she saw the exhaustion carved into his face. He hadn't slept either. Probably spent the night arguing with Serial, defending choices he wasn't sure were defensible. His eyes had settled back into that swirling silver and amber, the war between his halves visible but contained. My sister has a gift for saying cruel truths at the worst times. He leaned against the closed door, kept distance between them. But she's not wrong. About what I'm becoming. What you're becoming to me. I didn't ask to be your redemption project. You're not. That's the problem. He ran a hand through his hair, and she saw it shaking again. If this was just guilt, I could manage it. Control it. But it's more than that now. The recognition Serial mentioned, it's real. I feel you like I feel my own. Heartbeat. Your fear, your anger, your determination. It's louder than my own thoughts sometimes. Through the bond, Isadora felt it mirrored. She'd been aware of him all night too. His anguish, his protective fury, his desperate need to fix something that might be unfixable. It should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like the only honest thing in a world built on lies. Serial said this would make you irrational, that you'd sacrifice anything for me. I would. No hesitation. I already have. The moment I fought those enforcers, I became an enemy of the Covenant. There's no redemption from that. No forgiveness. Just execution when they finally catch me. He met her eyes, and she saw the truth there. And I'd do it again. That's what terrifies me. Not dying for you, but what I'm willing to let die. The war my father predicted. If the archive goes public, celestial and infernal factions will tear each other apart fighting over it. Humans will be collateral damage. Thousands. Dead. Maybe millions. Raziel moved closer, sat on the edge of the bed. Your father knew that. Spent 20 years trying to find a way to expose the truth without starting Armageddon. He failed. And now you're carrying the same burden. Isadora looked at the papers spread across the desk. Names of the dead. Names of killers still in power. Proof that could free people or condemn them. What if there's a third option? There isn't. I've spent 2 decades looking. You were looking for a way to destroy the system. What if we don't destroy it? What if we force them to fix it? She stood, started gathering specific papers. My ancestors documented corruption, yes, but they also documented what it used to be like, before the Covenant restructured, when there were courts, due process, laws that applied to everyone. Raziel watched her work, and through the bond she felt his confusion shifting to hope. Dangerous, fragile hope. You want to reform the celestial hierarchy? Isadora, they'll never. They will if the alternative is exposure to humanity. She found what she was looking for. A document dated 300 years ago, signed by 7 archangels. This, the original covenant, it promised protection for humans, accountability for celestials, and balance between realms. Your people violated their own laws. You can't hold angels accountable with paperwork. No, but I can hold them accountable with threat of revelation. Isadora's hands were steady now, her lawyer. Training kicking in. We don't publish the archive. We use it as leverage. Tell them either they return to the original covenant terms, create actual courts with actual justice, or we expose everything. Every crime. Every name. Every lie. Let humanity know what's been done in the name of protecting them. Through the bond, she felt Raziel's mind racing. Felt him seeing the strategy, the angles, the possibility. They'd never believe you'd actually do it. Exposure would destroy you too. You'd be hunted by every faction. Then we make it automatic. If anything happens to me, the archive gets published. Multiple locations, fail-safe releases. She was pacing now, energy flooding back. My father was trying to protect me by hiding. But maybe the only protection is making sure my death costs them everything. That's... Raziel stood, and she felt his awe through the bond. That's brilliant and insane, and would require us to actually set up those fail-safes, which means trusting people. Which means we need allies. People who want reform, who are tired of the current system. Isadora turned to face him. Your sister. She gave the orders that killed my mother, but she's also providing sanctuary now. Why? Because she's always hated the Covenant, hated taking orders. She runs Liminal specifically because it's outside their jurisdiction. Understanding dawned in his mismatched eyes. She'd help us. For her own reasons, but she'd help. Who else? There are others. Nephilim like us who've deserted. Humans who know the truth and survived. Even some younger angels who question the orders they're given. Raziel moved to the desk, started looking through papers with new purpose. If we can prove the current system violates the original Covenant, we're not just rebels, we're reformers. We're holding them to their own laws. Exactly. We're not starting a war. We're preventing one by giving them a choice. Isadora felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Not hope, exactly, but possibility. My mother didn't die trying to expose them. She died trying to make them better. Maybe we can finish what she started. Raziel's hands stilled on the papers. Through the bond, she felt his emotions crash over him. Grief for her mother, rage at what had been done, and underneath it all, something that felt achingly like pride. She'd be proud of you. The way you're thinking, the way you're fighting. She'd probably tell me I'm being reckless and stubborn. Definitely that too. He managed a small smile. But effective. You're more dangerous than she ever was, Isadora. Because you understand the law. Both kinds. Human and celestial. You can weaponize their own rules against them. A crash echoed from somewhere in the house. Both of them froze. Through the bond, Isadora felt Raziel's instant alertness, his power coiling ready to strike. Then Sariel's voice called out, irritated but not alarmed. Raziel, your little reformation project needs to... Wait. We have visitors. And they're not friendly. They ran. Down hallways that shifted configuration, through rooms that shouldn't connect but did. Sariel stood in the main foyer, arms crossed, staring at the front door that was rattling in its frame. Outside, something was trying to force entry past the wards. Infernal delegation. Sariel's tone was disgusted. 6 of them. Demanding we hand over the Ferreira girl and the archive. They're offering payment. Substantial payment. Tell them. No. Raziel moved beside his sister, and Isadora saw the similarity between them for the first time. Same predatory grace. Same dangerous intelligence. I did. They're being insistent. Sariel glanced at Isadora. They know you're here. Someone talked, and they've brought leverage. The rattling stopped. A voice came through the door, smooth and cultured and absolutely terrifying in its pleasantness. We know the girl is inside. We know she has opened the archive. We're prepared to offer asylum. In infernal territory. Protection from celestial prosecution. And in exchange, all we ask is access to the records, to ensure balance. Balance. Raziel spat the word. You want ammunition for war. We want justice, for crimes committed by Celestials against our kind. Is that so unreasonable? The voice paused. We've brought a gift, to demonstrate good faith. The door creaked open despite the wards. In the threshold stood 6 figures in suits that were too perfect, too tailored, too symmetrical to be natural. And between them, unconscious and bruised, was a man Isadora recognized from photographs. Her father. No. The word came out broken. No, he's dead. He disappeared 8 years ago. Disappeared, yes. Dead, no. The lead demon smiled, and his teeth were too white, too sharp. He's been our guest. Quite the stubborn man, your father. Refused to tell us where the archive was hidden. Refused to tell us about you. But now we don't need him to talk. We have you. Through. The bond. Isadora felt Raziel's rage building to catastrophic levels, felt his demon half screaming to slaughter everyone in sight, felt his angel half calculating odds and finding them poor. 6 demons, 2 Nephilim, 1 human, and her father as hostage. What do you want? Her voice was steadier than she felt. Simple exchange. Your father for the archive. You can keep your life, your freedom. Just give us the records. Isadora looked at her father, at the man who'd protected her, taught her, prepared her for this moment, even though it meant leaving her alone. At the man who'd written "Trust Raziel" as his final instruction. She felt Raziel tense beside her, felt him ready to fight regardless of odds. Felt Sariel's calculation, her willingness to abandon them both if necessary, to preserve Liminal's neutrality. And she made a choice. No deal. Isadora stepped forward. But I have a counteroffer. The lead demon's smile widened, intrigued. A counteroffer. How delightfully human. Please, enlighten us. Isadora felt Raziel's confusion through the bond, felt him trying to understand her strategy. She didn't have one. Not fully. But her father had taught her that the best negotiations happened when you had nothing left to lose. You want the archive to prove celestial corruption, to use as leverage in your eternal pissing contest with angels. Fine, I'll give you copies. Selective copies. That's not... The demon started. I'm not finished. Her voice cut through his. Objection. You get evidence of celestial crimes. Verifiable, dated, names included. Enough to force them to negotiate. But in exchange, you provide evidence of your crimes too. Every contract you've twisted. Every soul you've taken through manipulation instead of free choice. Every human you've destroyed for sport. Silence. The demons looked at each other, and through the bond, Isadora felt Raziel's shock transforming into something like awe. You want mutually assured destruction. Sariel's voice held reluctant respect. Both sides holding weapons aimed at each other. Peace through threat. I want accountability. Isadora moved closer to the threshold, and Raziel moved with her, a shadow at her back. The original covenant promised balance. Protection for humans. Justice for everyone. Both your factions violated that. Repeatedly. For centuries. So here's my offer. I compile evidence against both sides. Create a complete record. Celestial crimes and infernal crimes. And I hold it. One human holding that much power? The lead demon laughed. You'd be dead within hours. Not if killing me means immediate publication. Not if I have fail-safes in place that release everything to human authorities, media, governments. Not if my death costs both your factions everything you've spent millennia building. She pointed at her father. He spent 8 years in your custody and didn't break. I'm his daughter. You think I'm easier to intimidate? Through the bond, she felt Raziel's fierce pride mixed with terror at what she was proposing. Felt him understand that she was making herself into a living deterrent. A weapon that could only be used once, at the cost of mutually assured annihilation. You're insane. But the demon's tone had changed. Thoughtful now. Even if we agreed, the Celestials never would. Then you get an advantage. Access to evidence of their crimes while they get nothing. But if they're smart, they'll agree too. Because the alternative is a war neither. Side can win. Isadora held out her hand. My father. Now, as a show of good faith. The demon studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured, and 2 of his companions carried her father forward, laid him on the floor of the foyer. He was breathing, unconscious, but alive. Isadora wanted to run to him, check his injuries, but she held her ground. Showing weakness now would destroy everything. We'll need time to consult with our hierarchy. You have 24 hours. After that, I assume. You're not interested, and I start looking for other buyers. The bluff was enormous, but Isadora kept her voice steady. I hear there are human organizations that would pay very well for proof of your existence. Governments, scientists, the the media. That would violate the covenant more severely than anything we've done. The demon's eyes flashed red. It would be suicide. For all of us. Which is why you're going to agree to my terms. Isadora stepped back. 24 hours. Bring your answer. Here. And bring proof you can deliver evidence of your own crimes. I want authentication I can verify. The demons withdrew, melting into shadows that dissipated in Liminal's wrong-colored sunlight. The door swung shut, and Isadora's legs gave out. Raziel caught her before she hit the floor, and through the bond she felt his emotions overwhelming. Terror at what she'd just done. Pride at how she'd done it. And underneath it all, that dangerous certainty that he'd follow her into any abyss she chose. That was the most reckless, brilliant, suicidal negotiation I've ever witnessed. Sariel was grinning. Actually grinning. You're going to get yourself killed. But you might actually change things first. Isadora's father groaned. She scrambled from Raziel's arms to her father's side, checked his pulse, his breathing. Bruises covered his face and arms, but nothing seemed broken. Dad, can you hear me? His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then sharpening when he saw her face. Isadora. His voice was rough, damaged from not speaking or from screaming. She couldn't tell. You opened it, the box. I'm sorry. I didn't know they had you. I thought... Good. He managed a weak smile. Means you're finally fighting instead of hiding. Like your mother. His hand found hers, squeezed. Raziel. You're still here. Still here. Raziel knelt beside them, and Isadora saw tears in his mismatched eyes. I'm sorry. I should have found you. Should have known they'd taken you instead of killing you. You saved my daughter. That's all that matters. Her father's gaze moved between them, and she saw him notice their joined hands. Notice the way Raziel positioned himself protectively close. The bond. You formed it. Blood bond. Temporary. But even as Isadora said it, she knew the recognition beneath it wasn't temporary. Would never be temporary. Raziel was in her awareness now, permanently, the way her own heartbeat was. Your mother had it too, with him. Recognition. Her father coughed, and Raziel helped him sit up against the wall. She felt his guilt before he even spoke. Knew he'd been lied to. That's why her last words were about you. She knew if she could make him see you as real, as his responsibility, he'd never stop trying to make it right. She weaponized his conscience. Isadora felt the truth of it through the bond. Felt Raziel's anguished acknowledgement that her mother had seen him completely in seconds, and used it to save her daughter. She loved you more than her own life, and she trusted him to understand that. Her father looked at Raziel. Did you? Understand? Every day since. Raziel's voice was raw. And I will until the day I die. Sariel cleared her throat. As touching as this is, you have a bigger problem. You just threatened both celestial and infernal hierarchies with mutually assured destruction. That means you need those failsafes to actually exist. And you need them in place before either faction decides it's easier to kill all of you and destroy the archive, then negotiate. How long do we have? Isadora helped her father stand, let Raziel take most of his weight. Hours, maybe less. The Celestials will have felt the infernal presence here. They'll know about the negotiation, and they'll want to make their own offer or eliminate the threat entirely. Sariel moved to the window, looked out at Liminal's shifting landscape. I can hide you here for a while, but not forever, and if war comes, even Liminal won't be neutral ground anymore. Isadora's mind raced. The strategy was sound, but the execution required resources she didn't have. Safe locations, trusted allies, technology to create automated releases, and most critically, time. The human organizations you mentioned. Her father's voice was stronger now. I have contacts, people who know about the supernatural world, researchers, journalists. Government officials who've been trying to prove this for decades. He looked at Isadora. I wasn't just running all these years. I was building a network. People who could help when the time came. You planned this. Realization hit her. You knew I'd open the box eventually. Knew this confrontation would happen. And you prepared for it. I prepared you for it. The rest was always going to be your choice. He touched her face gently. Your mother documented the past. I built the infrastructure for the future. But you, Isadora, you're the one who has to decide what future that is. War or peace. Destruction or reform. Through the bond, she felt Raziel's absolute commitment to whatever she chose. Felt his readiness to die for her decision. Felt his quiet hope that maybe, impossibly, they could actually change things. We set up the fail-safes, all of them. Multiple locations, automated releases, backup plans for the backup plans. Isadora straightened, felt her lawyer's mind clicking into strategic mode. And then we call a meeting. Both factions. Neutral ground. We lay out the terms. Show them we're serious. And we give them a choice. They'll try to kill you at that meeting. Sariel's tone was matter-of-fact. Probably. That's why Raziel will be there. Isadora looked at him, saw his determination mirror her own. And you, if you're willing. Sariel laughed. Oh, I'm willing. Watching you threaten archangels and demon lords with their own crimes. That's entertainment I'll pay for with my involvement. Then we have a plan. Isadora picked up the lockbox, felt its weight. Differently now. Not burden, weapon, tool, legacy. My mother started documenting. My father built the network. Now I finish it. We hold them accountable. All of them. Or we burn it all down trying. Raziel's hand found hers, and through the bond she felt his emotions crystallize into something unshakable. Love. Not the obsessive kind Sariel had warned about, but the kind built on choice. On seeing someone completely, scars and strength and reckless courage, and choosing them anyway. Whatever happens, he said quietly. I'm with you. Not because of guilt. Not because of the bond. Because you're trying to do what no one else has been brave enough to attempt. And because I finally understand what your mother saw in those last moments. Not a killer who failed her, but someone who could still become something better. We all become something better. Isadora squeezed his hand. Or we die trying. Either way, we stop running. Outside, the sky shifted to colors that meant evening in. Liminal. They had hours to build a framework that could survive Armageddon. Hours to turn centuries of documentation into leverage that could force peace or guarantee war. Her father smiled despite his injuries. Your mother would be proud, terrified, but proud. Good. Isadora opened the lockbox, began organizing papers for what came next. Because we're about to do something that'll either change everything or destroy us completely. And I learned from the best that sometimes there's no difference. The war was coming. But maybe, just maybe, they could turn it into something else. Something that looked like justice, like accountability, like the original promise of protection and balance that had been broken so long ago. And if they failed, at least they'd fail trying to build something better from the ashes of lies. Through the bond, Raziel's certainty echoed her own. Together, damned and determined, they'd face whatever came next. Sometimes the hardest choice isn't between right and wrong. It's between justice and survival, between forgiveness and revenge, between running from the truth and weaponizing it, even when that truth could destroy everything. Isadora stood at the edge of war holding proof that could burn down corrupt systems or condemn millions to collateral damage. And she chose something harder than either option. She chose accountability, not just for her enemies, but for everyone, including the man who failed to save her mother, but spent decades trying to save her. What would you do if the person who destroyed your family was the only one who could protect you? Could you separate the crime from the choice? the past from the present? Could you look at someone's worst moment and still see their capacity for something better? Isadora did. Not because she forgave easily, but because she understood that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about building something new on top of the ruins, about choosing courage over comfort, about refusing to let trauma define your future, even when it shaped your entire life. Her mother's last words weren't a plea for mercy. They were an investment in possibility, a belief that even killers can become protectors if someone sees their humanity beneath the monster. That love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone despite their scars, their guilt, their impossible nature. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust the person everyone else would run from. Because redemption only exists when someone believes it's possible. If this story moved you, if it made you question what you'd do in Isadora's place, leave a like and share it with someone who needs to hear that broken things can still be beautiful. That guilt can transform into purpose. That the hardest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with the courage to demand better from a world that's forgotten what justice looks like. Subscribe for more stories about the impossible choices that define us. Because sometimes the monster isn't the one with fangs and wings. It's the system that created them. And sometimes the hero isn't the one without scars. It's the one who chooses to fight anyway.